Goodale and I on the Wrestling Room podcast moved it up to 9 a.m. again. Got my coffee this week. We got Goodale in the basement, a little bit different environment, but it's all is good still stuck in quarantine, taking it one day at a time. Got a great guest, another our family member, Nunzio Campanile, a great Italian name. I'm excited to hear from him and get him on board here.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and good to see you. Glad you're doing well. We'll talk here a little bit about your trip that you got coming up, which kind of gets me fired up because that means we're opening up a little bit more. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I am down in the basement today. I wanted to give Nuns a little bit of a football field, so I have all my – and it stinks. It's coming through all glossy. But these are our 2000, 2001 championship teams that I coached at Jackson that were ranked number one in New Jersey, and I want to get into a little parochial versus public situations with Nuns, get him all fired up. So see where he's at with that. But yeah, everything's good, man. Before he comes on, and he's going to be a great guest, and he's had to go through so much with high school to college, then all of a sudden be getting thrusted into taking over the head coaching reign. And I want to know what that was like. You know, how hard is it to show up every week when you know your team's not very good and you just got to fight and you got a fan base that wants a winner. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I want to get into what you're doing, what you got coming up. And obviously we'll talk more about it when Nuns gets off because we won't keep them for the whole hour. But just let the fans know what you got coming up Monday.
Yeah, that'll all be interesting from him. I mean, taking over a program, who knows what his expectations, what the administration was telling him. I'm interested in that as well. But this Monday, we got a trip, a couple of the senior level wrestlers, a couple high school wrestlers. It's kind of going to be a big deal. It's a trip to Oklahoma for them. It's a big deal there. Oklahoma Regional Training Center is hosting like a bunch of athletes in, and the regulations and rules are a little more opened up there at this point. So they're allowing the athletes in to stay in cabins. Everyone got tested. So there's a doctor on site in case anything happens with that as well. But
did you have to get tested?
Yeah, I did. I got tested, and unfortunately, I was hoping I got the antibody test. I was hoping to like have the antibody or like have had it somehow already, and then I'd be good. I wouldn't have to worry about it as much. But no, I was negative and had no antibodies. So I want to be careful here, but at the same time, I feel young, healthy, and I'm ready to get back after it. This is what I do, and I want to start training with the best. But there's a lot of good guys. I don't want to drop anyone's names without their like permission, but there's a lot of good guys going to this camp, and it should be something really good. Supposedly the governor and senators are coming for like a ribbon cutting of the facility and just the whole camp. They're excited to get their stuff back and going. This is part of getting their state back up and going, so they're excited about it.
Yeah, it's wrestling's big out in Oklahoma, and they're doing some really, really good things. It's a matter of time. Obviously, Oklahoma State, one of the top programs in America, and University of Oklahoma, and this RTC is it's up and coming for sure, and they got a lot of good guys going out there. So that'll be great training for you. I'm sure you kind of hungry for it, man. Just it's so hard being stuck in a basement doing your own thing, and maybe grabbing one of our guys here or there, grabbing a high school kid here or there. So this is a high level for you, and it'll be a good, good to see where you're at and see if all that conditioning's been paid off.
For sure. And just a reminder, you can join us face to face today by joining the show on air on the FanCrat app by pressing the green fan line button. And we're gonna have Coach on, but after Coach hops off, you guys are welcome to join that line and come talk to us face to face. Ask us a question. Just say what's up. Say you appreciate it or whatnot, and say you hate us, whatever you want.
Yeah. We got Frank. Before we bring in Coach Nuns, we really because we're not going to keep Coach Nuns the whole time. We understand he's recruiting the heck out of really the whole country, and we're certainly going to get into that because everybody's fired up about that. These guys are super, super busy, man, and I'm just glad he gave us an opportunity. But we've asked a bunch of fans to kind of call in this week and do a little bit more interaction with them. So we do have one that came on early. Let's get him before we get Coach Nuns and see what's going on, and then we'll get Coach Nuns here in a couple minutes. So we got Frank from Manalapan backstage. Frank, how you doing, buddy?
All right, not bad, Scott. Not bad at all.
Good, man.
Hey, listen, I just wanted to tell you that, geez, I remember you wrestling back in high school days. My son wrestled for St. John Vianney down at that short. And
Yeah.
geez, I remember you as a kid wrestling, as a matter of fact. So
It's a
it
long
was
time
great.
ago, Frank. You got a good memory.
I want to tell you something, though. You did a heck of a job with Rutgers. It's been great ever since you came, Scott.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. It's guys like Anthony that we have on that have made it so special and have made it work. You know what I mean? So we're excited about that.
He was quite an average wrestler at best, right?
Yeah, he did okay. He got his hand raised a couple times. So, are you doing good? Are you staying healthy?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. Yeah, trying to do my best. The guy at my age, you know. So I'm holding my own.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you calling in. If there's anything we could do for you, don't hesitate. And we're glad we give you some time to talk a little Rutgers sports and see some of our guests and hear what's going on up at the university.
Yeah. Another thing on another note, getting into football. They're doing a heck of a job recruiting over there, aren't they?
Well, they really are, and we can't wait to talk to Coach Nunz about that. And I've sat in with him on a couple meetings, or at least sat with him in his office, and the way he breaks down tape and goes over the fine detail of every single PSA. So I'm excited to hear what has happened. I kind of know, I think I know, but it's going to be good for the fans to realize how this thing's taken off so fast.
Boy, all you guys are coming together: basketball, wrestling, football. It's really an exciting time at Rutgers. Boy, glad to be a part of it.
It really is. Thanks. And we appreciate that you are a part of it. So we'll just keep put our heads down, go to work, and keep doing what we're doing.
Super, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, that's good, man. These fans are into it, man. They want to see winners and everything. Obviously, football and basketball are the ones that drive the engine. We get that. Wrestling's held its own and has kept us in the spotlight, which has been great. But we need football to win, Ant. You know that. You've been going to football games your whole life, and when football wins, everything else is easier.
Yeah, and speaking of, we got Coach Nunes ready in the back here. Let's patch him on through and let's ask him some of these questions.
Yeah, man. Cool. Coach, what's up, man?
What's going on, Coach?
Not much. How we doing?
Good. You're clear, man. You're all good there. Look at you.
Well, we do this pretty much all day, every day, I guess. So
I know.
Let's do it by now.
Is this your spot? Is this like the spot you do all the Zooms right here?
Yeah, I hang in my I basically turn my basement into an office, but I'm not as decorated as Coach Goodale. I gotta get
I'm so mad. This is all glossy. All these have been laminated. They're from 2000. So I wanted a little backstage to show you our football teams in the 2000-2001 days, man.
That's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So what's going on, man? I mean, these fans are super, super excited. We got so many. We don't want to keep you too long because we know you're busy. We know you got meetings all day long. But what's the feel like at the Hale Center? It's totally different. Even when I was there in February and March, you could tell there's a buzz going on. You guys are killing it recruiting. What's the sense? What's the temperature over there at the Hale Center?
I really think that probably it almost seems obvious, but the impact that Coach Shiano has just by his plan, the culture that he's building, it permeates through the whole thing. So it goes through the staff, the current players, and he does an incredible job of building relationships, and those relationships are really starting to pay off in recruiting. He has a unique way to look at recruiting, and I think that it's really had a positive impact locally, and now even to a certain degree nationally in the way that we've been able to get some players on board. But really, more than anything, just kind of building relationships with these players and their families. And I'm learning a lot. Just being around them. I mean, I've obviously have been on on the staff here for going on 3 years, but I've also been on the other side of this recruiting process for 20 years. And I would say that the way he has guys working is definitely unique. And I think it's special, and I think it will pay off. And, then obviously we got to make it pay off on the field, and then it could really take off.
Yeah. What are some of the things, we got a comment from one of the fans here, what are some of the things the guys right now are doing to stay in shape?
Oh, well, they're all working out. It's tough because there are restrictions from the NCAA about, our ability to guide them. But our guys are super committed. I mean, how hard they work, and, we're allowed to spend time with them in meetings, but we're not really allowed to spend time with them, in the weight training yet. But it sounds like that some of that stuff may get relaxed.
June 1st, right?
Yeah.
June 1st.
So then, how that impacts us, I'm not entirely sure yet, but they're working really hard. I know that, I don't know that there's a roadmap to this whole thing, but I do think that if you have a great culture and your guys really believe in each other and they're working hard for each other, then you have a chance to get them to keep working. And I know that our guys are working really hard.
Right.
Let me ask you this, taking away, I mean, obviously the obvious question is yes, but taking away, especially in this situation with Coach coming in, taking away spring ball had to be hard, right? Because he's really never got, I mean, he's one-on-one meetings, you could do those until you're blue in the face, but until you see the product on the field, you really don't know what you have. And you have a pretty much, other than maybe you and a couple others, a whole new staff. So what was it like when spring football got taken away, and how have you adapted to getting to know these guys? Or not you so much, but Coach Yano and the rest of the staff.
Well, just like I said in recruiting, he does an unbelievable job of creating relationships. He just has a plan for everything. So in the way that we communicate, the way that we meet with guys and try to cross over to make sure that, before this happened, we would do little things like eat lunch together every day with the players. So guys were managing to spend time, not just with their position group, but with guys in other groups. And I think you start to see that in, some of the stuff that we do now, just trying to make sure that everybody stays in contact with one another and gets to know each other, and that those relationships continue to develop. Because like you said, I mean, if you haven't been on the field and you haven't been able to get out there and coach it up, and I think a lot of bonds are formed through, the adversity of even practice. And those things, obviously, we haven't been able to do them together as a group. So we're just doing the best we can to create ways to get guys to know each other.
Yeah. That's all stuff that I feel like Coach Goodale and the wrestling staff's doing as well. He sounded like he was doing some cool things with recruits earlier before we got on this call. But a question that I had for you, how was that transition of being the interim head coach into being retained, staying on the staff? Did you ever have second thoughts of maybe I got a taste of being a head coach, I want to go be a head coach at a college university, or maybe get a different role where you'd be a assistant head coach or more of a higher up the ladder coach and on the roster, or whatever the case was?
Honestly, I mean, it's a great question, but honestly, I really didn't entertain any other ideas. The truth is that what I found in my time as the interim head coach, that there are a lot of things that I need to learn about how to run a program at this level. It's not the football. The football's football. I actually said to Coach, the day after he got hired, I said, what I want to do is I want to learn how to run a program at this level. And I don't think there's anybody better to learn from than him. It's not simply the football. There's so many things that go into it. And I felt like all the years that I ran a high school program, I felt like, one, I worked under a legend in Greg Toll for 10 years, but then through trial and error, I learned a lot, and I studied, how to get better. Well, I feel like there's no better way to prepare myself to be a head coach if that opportunity comes than to work for Greg Schiano. I just think that he's, I think that the things he brings to the table will be, I'm learning every day, and like I said, it's not simply the football. It's just, in the way that you approach everything, the way you approach the staff, the way you approach the players, recruiting, and he has a pretty good sense of what he wants to do in all areas of it, including stuff that you think is so far away from football, the fundraising, or, how the kids eat, or, whatever it is, he's got a plan, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Ant mentioned we're meeting with our team and meeting with recruits, and we're doing things differently. It's been really good, believe it or not. I don't want to say it's been good being in quarantine, but it's allowed us to do some different things. So one of the exercises we've been doing with our team, and we had 38 guys on a call the other day, and we start out our meetings asking 5 or 6 guys about your mentor, your role model, and your hero, and then you let these guys open up and you learn a lot about them. It's been pretty cool. And I started it out. My mentor, I could go in a million different directions, right? But one of my mentors was Chris Barnes. I don't know if you remember Chris Barnes, but he was a coach at Jackson, and then he went to Wall and won a bunch of championships with Wall. But he started out at Jackson, and our team stunk. Our teams weren't very good when he first started. When I first started coaching in 95 and 96, and the reason why he was my mentor was he showed up every day with a plan. And even when we were bad, and you know what it's like to be practicing Thanksgiving for a Thanksgiving Day game when it's freezing cold out and you're 2-7, it stinks. It's not fun. So how do you keep them motivated, right? And I was just amazed on how every practice was really intense and in tune, and everybody was on the same page when we were that bad. And so my question to you is, how did you keep these guys last year? And I'm not saying you stunk at all. Obviously, there was some, you went through so much and the record wasn't what you wanted or the fan base wanted. And there were people, they were always chirping. But how do you keep everybody locked in, tunnel vision, so to speak, focused, have a great week of practice and lead up to a game? How do you keep those guys on that page, and how difficult of a challenge was that for you?
It was definitely interesting. I mean, there were things that came up that I could never have anticipated, but all of it was great, because it was an opportunity to learn. And pretty much the approach I tried to take with the players were that change is coming, but every single rep that you take in practice, and especially every single rep that you take in the game, is an opportunity to improve. So if you just kind of focus on what's happening right now and use it as an opportunity to grow and get better and compete, you will be that much more prepared down the road. And I used to say, like, it might have been the middle of the season. I said, hey, this might pay off in 6 weeks. It might pay off in 6 months. It might pay off in 2 years, but these reps matter. And so you get in a situation where you're losing the game. Like, we were playing Minnesota, and, they were beating us up pretty good. And we put a couple drives together in the second half where we moved the ball. We had like a 17-play drive, and we ended up not scoring. But then we had another drive where we scored, and another one we were moving the ball at the end of the game. And all I was trying to show the players is, look, that gives us a chance. And then the next week we went out and we beat Liberty. And the following week we competed against Illinois. We were tied at halftime. So at least there was a way to show, like, look, if you just keep playing and keep improving and keep doing little things, you're on your way. And, when we played Ohio State last year, I mean, obviously they were considerably better than us, but we were able to put some points on the board. We were able to make a couple plays, and the kids at least left this is not the goal as a Big Ten football team by any means, but at least in the situation we were in, they left and went into the locker room feeling like, hey, we played hard. We competed hard. Now, you don't really get any prizes for competing hard, but hopefully that stuff pays off down the road for some of the guys that were in those games. They've got reps that gave them a chance to get better. And, hopefully, we all talk about, raising a level. And, heck, when I coached wrestling, that was our big thing. We went out and wrestled all the best teams and got our butts kicked. And then, eventually that paid off for us in championships. So I don't know. I think it's all the same.
Yeah. I don't know if a lot of our viewers know that you were a wrestling coach at Bosco when you were coaching football there, and you were the athletic director there as well, correct?
Yeah. I was I coached wrestling 9 years there, 6 as the head coach.
Awesome.
So before we came on, I was telling Anthony, didn't you have to leave the team at a certain point? Like, you got the job at Bergen, you had to leave Bosco, maybe in the middle of the state tournament or the team state. Which one was it?
It was really unique. So I was they offered me the job, and we were in the middle of the team states. So they had beaten us earlier in the year. And we were going there Friday night to wrestle Bergen, and they beat us in a pretty close match. And I thought we were going to win, and it was the section final, I guess. So Friday night because it snowed. So they told me, like, all right, you have to tell us the next day. And I told them, I'm like, well, we're going to win, so I'll tell you on Monday. I don't know. We already beat. I'm like, all right, win. And sure enough, we ended up winning the match. Great match. We went down, wrestled St. Augustine, and we won the sectional. And then I took the job, but I finished out the season, of course. But they told me once the team stuff ends. But it was really, talk about weird. You're in there coaching your team, and we win. We're taking these pictures. They have this, like, this is our house. So, like, our guys are taking pictures under. I'm like,
Yeah.
Schools, and they're bitter rivals.
So I want to get into this high school here in a little bit, but I want to stick with recruiting because we're getting a bunch of questions on our chat. You know, what do you look for, the things you're looking for? And I sat with you a couple times in your office, watched you watch film and kind of said, here's a tweener, here's his size, here's his weight. So you're like the fine detail. You've watched Nick Suriano's, the Joe Grellos, right in that Bergen Catholic gym. You watched Ashnault wrestle. Like, you probably know for the most part, you got a really good eye which kids are flat out stars, right? You could look at Anthony and Nick Suriano in high school and say, these guys are going to be stars. Where are you at with that in football? I mean, it's obviously a lot different. Is a kid going to grow? Is he going to get bigger? Is he going to get faster? Is he going to get stronger? He's not in a weight class, right? Where are you at with that? Have there been misses? Have you bet everything on a kid? This kid's going to be great, and it doesn't pan out. Where are you at with that whole? And what are you looking for? What are you really looking for in a recruit?
So it's funny, when I was a high school coach, I used to travel, to colleges all the time, and it was almost always because it was always something I had an interest in. Eventually making a move to college football. I used to ask all the time, like what their miss rate was, and a lot of guys. I think the guys that were pretty honest would say, probably 25 to 35% of the guys they took, they probably missed on, and so I would say that there certainly are guys that happens with. I don't see how it couldn't happen, but I think that's why, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for measurables for sure, but I think the more you're able to dig down deep and find out more about a kid, I'm sure you're able to figure out what is going to be the determining factor and whether this kid is successful. Like, can he travel away from home? I'm sure just like you guys, like, some guys, they're super talented. And then when the talent is equal, maybe they don't have it, that it factor to win big matches or whatever it is, or they have the ability to learn that. So I think that you're right. The talent part isn't hard to figure out. But, there are certainly guys that have been missed on. So I think it's really, especially now with what's going on, we have so much time to recruit. We really should have an opportunity to dig down deeper than ever. You can't do it face to face, but you do have an opportunity to get to know all the people around them. So I think coach is great about that, like trying to really figure out what makes people tick. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about, you're learning every day. Like, I'm learning, how do you do that? How do you get down and, more than simply conversations with the kid, but I think it's important because I think the more you know about someone, the better chance you have of making sure they're the right guy. And the other thing that's really interesting is you were talking about projecting, like now we got to go out and, I don't know, you're recruiting sophomores and freshmen that, they can't even, you're projecting so far ahead, and how much are they going to grow? How much, a kid's a 6'3" sophomore and he's done growing, opposed to a 6'3" sophomore, or maybe a 6'1" sophomore that's going to be 6'5". Those are things that, you go in and talk to their coach and like, this guy's going to be 6'5", and you're like, all right, he's 17 already. Like, I doubt it. Other guys, your kid's like, 15-year-old junior, and you're like, holy cow, this guy might, he might be huge. But so those are always interesting. I think the more you know people that are around him, and you trust them, the better chance you have of getting it right.
Yeah. I think that Rutgers brought you in because they thought that you were going to be able to be a great recruiter on the high school level, coming from that scene for a lot of years, being coaching like big teams from Bergen Catholic and national teams during your era. Have you seen that transition for yourself? Like, how has the recruiting been? Do you feel you have a special angle that not many people have, just coming from that scene?
Well, I think a couple of things that are helpful for me. One, I have a lot of relationships in New Jersey. So I feel like, even if it's not my recruit, I may be able to help, just get some more information about kids or kind of find out how they tick. In talking about, digging down deep, obviously you need to use every resource available. So hopefully, the relationships I've built over the years, I've always tried to treat people the right way and, hope that, people at least trust that I'm going to be honest with them and tell them the truth. And I think one thing that has always been good for me is that, I understand kids, the age that we're recruiting, because I spent 20 years coaching high school football, and I So I think I have a good understanding of their perspective from it. Now, obviously not every kid's the same, but we do a great job of team recruiting. So if there's something that you're good at, then that has to be your angle, So like if there's 4 of us, that know somebody, we've got to find out what you're best at. And, I think coach is really good at that. So I'm sure I have my strengths and I have my weaknesses just like everybody else. And, just try and use those strengths. And like I said, I think that coach does a great job of teaching us how he wants it done. So I'm learning a lot about maybe some things that I wasn't doing that I think I can do better, and hopefully I'm doing better.
Well, you guys are doing better. You're killing it.
Yeah.
And you're making us work. You're really making me work because I'm on the other side of it with my son, and he gets letters from you guys, 3 or 4 different coaches a day. It's incredible. And I'm not going to hijack this show to talk about that, but you're making me work, and you're making me write a lot of letters and do a lot of these Zoom calls. So whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it. It's working. And we're fired up about it. Let's shift gears real quick because I want to know, was it always a dream? Like everybody asked me, was this your dream job, 13 years ago? And I never had a dream to be the Rutgers wrestling coach. I never even had the vision. Now, once I got the job, it became a vision what we were going to do, but it was never a dream of mine. Was it always maybe a dream or a vision of yours to go from high school to college?
It was always there. I always looked at it like I had a job that I absolutely loved. So if I did that job for the rest of my life, I think I would have went to the grave pretty happy guy. Like I would not have ever, felt like, oh man, I didn't accomplish what I set out to do. I loved my job. So I always felt like if the right opportunity came along and it was good for my family, then yeah. And I always, my brother played at Rutgers. He was on Coach Castellanos' first team. He was a freshman. So I spent a lot of time watching Rutgers, and then having some players that played here, guys like Mike Teal, and probably the first like big one, and then over the years some other guys. So I always felt like I was really close, keeping a close eye on Rutgers football. So I always thought that I just think that the place has so much potential, and I have so much love for New Jersey and New Jersey football that now I think it's almost like an unbelievable situation because the things that Coach Castellanos, kind of similar background, being a Jersey guy, and obviously has so much love for this place. So I don't know if I had a specific dream, but it's almost like I kind of said it, when I was the interim head coach, like, for a guy like me, this is, it is a dream job. Like, really watching what you did was, to me, you kind of puts the thought in your head like, man, that really is incredible. To see a guy, in the state tournament, you wouldn't remember this, but I had a couple opportunities to coach against you, sit in the other chair. And when you took that job, I remember thinking like, well, how could you not root for that? If you're a high school coach in New Jersey, to have, a high school coach be the head coach at Rutgers and, to see what you've built. So I think it's awesome. So I do think that, it kind of was always there. It wasn't my motivating factor every day when I got out of bed. I always felt like, stay focused on the job you're doing and opportunities will present themselves. So, I'm not a guy that wants to be quick to run out the door. I always think like, just do a great job where you are. That was really my thought process always. And, but when the opportunity came, I thought like, what's better than this? It's Big Ten football in my backyard, coaching kids that I understand and that I love to coach, and at a place that I love to be at. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. You grew up in a football family. Like I feel like I grew up in a wrestling family. So your brother's all coach, your dad coached. Is there any competition to this day about who's got what kind of job, what kind of coaching job, what kind of team they're on? Any bragging at Christmas and Thanksgiving times?
Believe it or not, it's probably the total opposite of that. The worst thing was coaching against each other. I coached against my brother Anthony a bunch of times, and my brother Vito a bunch of times, and my brother Nick, actually, now that I think about it, because at different times we were all in the same leagues. It's really probably, we're a very, very close family. And my dad was my freshman coach, and now he's the freshman coach for my brother. So my dad's going to be 75. He's still coaching football. He started coaching, senior year in high school. He broke his hand in like the middle of the season. He started coaching football in 1962 or whatever, and he's been pretty much coaching football ever since. So, we were really raised on football, and we kind of live and die with each other's games. My game is over, and I could catch my brother Anthony's game, or I could catch my brother Nick, whatever it is. I'm going to do it, and so really, more than anything, there's a lot of time talking football, but we are really supportive.
Yeah, it's got to be hard on your parents. A lot of ups and downs. Someone's doing well, someone's doing not so well, or everyone's doing good one week, everyone's not doing well the next week.
Yeah, we had a week this year or two that we went 0-4. That's like unheard of, my dad coaches the freshman team, and he's like, they never lose. Like, they're unbelievable. It's like the greatest gig ever for him. He gets all these great players. He coaches them like it's 1975, like he's out of his mind and things. They love him, and so they win every week pretty much. But the rest of us, it's a battle. So but those weeks when everyone wins is pretty cool. But for my mom, it's brutal because she's she's been on a football field forever, and being a mom, the wife of a coach and a mom, so it kills her, and it never ends. Now like my son's playing, my brother's son, so it just kind of starts. It's just a never-ending cycle, I guess.
Right.
It's funny you say that about your dad, because when I'm done here, I'm going to go back and be Billy Ashnault's fourth assistant coach at CBA, to carry the water bottles and just to coach wrestling and not have to do anything else but to show up to practice and listen to Billy tell me what to do. So we got a question here. Dave's watching on YouTube, and his opinion's different on whether Greg is going to be turn this whole thing around and bring us to a bowl, January 1 bowl game, a Rose Bowl, whatever the case might be. What's the difference that you've seen in him the second time around? And you said you spent a little time watching your brother play for him. I've noticed a difference. He's talked to me about that quite a bit. Have you seen the difference in him at all, or do you remember much when he was first here?
Oh yeah, honestly, I followed it really closely, and opportunity I ever had to listen to him speak and things like that. And, one of the things that I've always thought was amazing about him, when he was here the first time, for the most part, I was an assistant coach, but the guy's so committed to it that, I always felt like, it just sounds crazy to be able to just like call the head coach at Rutgers, but like he was that good to me always. Had some good players, so I understand that, but
I take those calls too.
Yeah, right. So, but I think that so I actually spent a lot of time. I used to come down and watch practice when Anthony was playing, when Teal was playing. So, I spent a lot of time down here. Then my brother coached here, but that was after Coach left. So, the one thing he's talked about is, almost like his goal and his purpose, the goal to win a national championship, but the purpose to make a difference in kids' lives and to really be an incredible mentor to our kids. I think there's a lot of value in that. I think that's really what it's all about. And I believe that if kids know that you love them, you could coach them hard. If kids know that you care about them and that it's more than football, then, they're going to open up and they're going to be willing to be pushed. And he's going to push them, I'm sure. We haven't been on the field yet, but, there's no way around it, right? There's no way around hard work. I don't think you win national championships, Anthony, without putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So
correct.
I think that, what is different is he's making at least what he says, I wasn't in the meetings every day, but what he says, that's probably the biggest difference, that making sure it's a concerted effort as a purpose to be an incredible mentor to kids. Honestly, from the outside, I've always thought he was that, but, I'm sure we all have things that we feel like we can get better at. And, I guess that's a major thing that I think, might help get you over the top. Obviously we have a ways to go. We got a lot of work to do, and we haven't even been on the field yet together. So, as a team, so there's a lot of work to do, but I don't think the goal has changed. I think his goal has always been to win a national championship at Rutgers. And, I don't think that changes, but the way to get there maybe changes a little bit. The method, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Yeah. That was great insight on that. I'm a big Schiano fan. I'm confident in him and what he's going to do for us and what all you guys are going to do with the football program. We got another question from Bill in the comments. How do you recruit against the phrase, you're not Ivy League, or you're not a top 5 school? I mean, dealing with like wrestling, for the most part, it's cut and dry, but there's always those cases that are like, they think they're Ivy League kids, but you really kind of know they're not Ivy League kids, and you're trying to recruit them off the ledge of going to the Ivy League school. Do you guys deal with that as much on football?
Do you deal with it? I would like to know, I would add to that, because it's a great question, maybe for you because of Florida, is it the SEC or the ACC, right? And I think Big Ten is one of the best conferences, but do you have that with the Ivies or a certain conference, or you're not top 5?
Probably in certain ways we have it with every conference, because we recruit such a myriad of kids that, even though we are Big Ten football, the Ivy League is a real thing. It's unbelievable schools, but I think that, we provide the opportunity to have a world-class education and play football at the highest level possible. And the one thing that's probably unique in wrestling is, the Ivy Leagues are some of the best. You get the best wrestlers in the country, and obviously, Cornell and Princeton's turned it, so where in football, there's a major difference in the football level. So, I had a kid at Bergen Catholic, John Simmis, that came to Rutgers he had every Ivy League school. And, one of the things that we talked about is, if you're an academic all Big Ten player, you could write your own ticket. The opportunities, the level of education at Rutgers, we could put that up with anybody. But, the fact that he could play big time college football, and he's scoring touchdowns against, Penn State, Michigan when he's a sophomore, and you're like, hey, that was the year they beat Michigan and almost beat Penn State. And you're like, those experiences, I don't know that you could trade that for anything in the world. So if you could get both, and, now he's doing great in his, post-football life, and working in the city and whatnot. So, my thought is, if you're that type of student and you're an academic all Big Ten player, man, you could really write your ticket. Now, as far as, the other conferences, I think, like you just said, we're in the Big Ten East. I don't think it gets any better than that. The football is as good as any conference anywhere, in the country. And so the opportunity is certainly there, now our ability to prove that we can succeed at that level. And, I think Coach has a great track record of developing NFL players. He did it the last time he was here. And, I think he has a great plan to make sure that we continue to do that. I think if we can show that, then guys will say, hey, yeah, I can get almost everything taken care of. I can get a world-class education, be around people I love, and also, get developed to be a pro. So those, if you check those boxes, you probably have a chance.
Yeah, and on top of that, like when you're at a school like Rutgers, a big public state university, these donors and alumni that are donating to your programs, they want to see the kids getting good grades, and the ones that are getting good grades and putting in that effort, and then coach says good things about them on the field, about their work ethic, they're the ones getting great jobs right away. It's so transitive. So I don't really like when kids are saying the Ivy League thing, they want to make a lot of money when they're done. I'm like, there's opportunities. We're in New York City. We're in Philadelphia. We're wherever you want to go in the country. We got 40,000 kids come to school here every year. Like think about that graduating class of 10,000, 8,000 people every year entering the workforce, man. There's plenty of opportunities and connections for these kids.
No doubt. You're literally building, your name and your brand in the largest media market in the world, really 2 of the largest media markets in the world. So, guys that are open-minded about that, I think and that's one of the things going back that I always thought about Rutgers that was unique. And I really experienced it with Simmis's recruiting. I remember, I think it was Dave Cohen was the coach at the time. He's like, well, what do we got to do to recruit this kid? And I said, what do we got to do? I said, you got to show him that you can make him a millionaire by the time he's 35, because, that's what, Harvard and Princeton are telling him. And, I honestly, a lot of that you probably do on your own, but at the same time, like the network that you have coming out of a school like Rutgers should be fantastic in that world. And I think that, Coach, you've been here long enough, like you make the connections over enough time. Coach Shiano has a lot of the same connections, those things that they pay off for your athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that as well. I get frustrated as heck when kids are like, I want the Ivy League education. We have a world-class education. You could do whatever you want coming out of Rutgers. There's such a a strong marketing system we have going. Everything is in the mentoring programs that we have. We have everything. So I don't want to say it's a cop out. Kids grow up, they want to be an Ivy League kid. What are you going to do?
Sure.
You can't always fight it. So I get it, but it's been a little bit frustrating that way. And you can't beat our facilities. You can't beat the fan base. You can't beat wrestling at the rack. So to me, it's frustrating, but you move on, you go after the next one, and you just continue to do with what you got and put our kids in the work world. That's what we've been doing. So
Sure.
I got a couple quick hitters for you. We'll let you go. I know you're super busy. A couple serious ones, then we'll have a little bit of fun. Quick thoughts on the transfer portal.
Who knows? I mean, because I obviously dealt with that when I was the interim head coach too. The thing is, I am all for kids having, rights to, protect themselves and put themselves in a good position, and we probably, we're probably all on both sides of it, because it benefits you sometimes. And, just the thing that's scary is a lot of kids jump in there and don't really know what they're putting themselves into. I just think that, when you're really young, and just because you have the right doesn't always mean that you should use it. I think that people should be more judicious about it, because there are so many factors of how it affects teams' rosters, how it affects kids that go in there and can't find the right fit and end up in worse shape than they were when they started. I think that's probably more kids. It's probably hurt more kids than benefited them, I guess. But, I do see both sides of it. I think it's just a really slippery slope if you're a, 19, 20-year-old guy and, you just haven't really gotten your way yet. So you think like, oh, the grass is greener, but
Greener, yeah.
everything about the other place. So I think that's really scary. Like if you're a kid or a parent, I would really think twice about just jumping in somewhere. I would think you got to better talk to your coaches, and, that's where the trust factor in recruiting, hopefully, recruiting comes out, because hopefully they understand that it is a process to get there, that you don't just walk in and then all of a sudden you're like the, all Big Ten, whatever it is, football, wrestling, basketball, doesn't matter, so.
We had Peichel on, right, Ant, last week, and he kind of was saying the same thing. Like the minute something goes wrong, it's just so easy now just to jump ship, and there's no trial and tribulation. There's no fighting through adversity. And that's everything we talk about. Yeah. Like to win big games, you're going to fight through, or win big wrestling matches, you're going to have to fight through adversity. Ashnault had to fight through adversity with all the injuries and the knee and the shoulder. And at the end of the road, it's a greater prize, I think. And I just think with this portal, and again, we've benefited from it, right? We benefited. So it's been good to us. But I just think with the portal, it's just so easy to get up and go. And that's kind of,
and that's not what's best for them. And that's the thing that's tough, because, people always say like, oh, in football, his coaches are jumping jobs and they're making millions of dollars. And I understand all that. But in the end, like, does it benefit does it really benefit the kids? I think fighting through adversity is usually what benefits us all. But, I'm sure each kid is different. And like you said, we both benefit and I guess pay the price for it at times. But, I always feel like in the end, I really have no say in what they do. So, we're just going to do our best to work within the rules,
yeah.
You're not like you're a head coach, so maybe you have a chance to have some input on it, but I certainly don't.
Yeah. Yeah. We asked this to a lot of the coaches we've had on. What is the hardest Big Ten school you've came across to play in?
Toughest stadium?
Hardest stadium.
Jeez. To be honest, I mean, we went to Ohio State and Michigan over the last 2 years, but the games weren't, for what it's worth, they weren't really very tense games. So I don't know that we really experienced that the last 2 years, where it was like, oh man, you can't hear a word in here. So that's a unique thing that, I'm looking forward to our players really experiencing that, Wisconsin was a cool place to go. That was a fun game. Iowa was cool. Played them, and they did that whole thing with the children's hospital. That was pretty neat. That stadium was packed. Honestly, they're all great stadiums, but I think that those probably four stood out.
Yeah.
Parochials, you're a big parochial guy, right? I think you played at Paramus Catholic.
Yep.
You coached at Bosco and Bergen. You've made your whole living up in North Jersey there. For me, I mean, you're talking to two public school guys right now. For me, it was always about it's your town. It's where you grew up. This is where you play. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't really – when I was coaching, it was never an issue. We never – wrestling-wise, we really never struggled with the parochials at that time. Obviously, I think towards the end with Anthony, they started to really get good. Bergen really started to get good in Bosco. Why? What is the difference? What's the reasoning? Why are kids choosing parochials? And why are public school coaches not wanting to whether wrestle or play ball against them?
Well, there's a few things. First of all, North Jersey is a little different setup. Like Bergen County has 71 towns.
Yeah.
I think they have like 50, it was 55. Now it's like maybe 52 schools that play high school football. So, the size of the schools is definitely different. Maybe you have a little of that in the shore and stuff, but like Jackson's a way bigger school than, like where I live, my kids have the choice to go to either Indian Hills or Ramapo. And Ramapo is one of the best programs in the state. So, but I guess one of the things is, the schools are right on top of each other, and it's really easy to get to those parochial schools, if you live in North Jersey.
Yeah.
So I think the level of competition is, part of it. Like when I was in school, the NNJIL was, as a Catholic school kid, like we all played in the NNJIL, like Bergen, Bosco. I went to PC in St. Joe's. We were all in the NNJL, and we played with all the big public schools. And back then, like Hackensack was probably the best team, but Passaic had good teams, Kennedy had good teams, Montclair, and some of those programs are still really good. But, I just think that it's a little bit personal choice. Like I think that when I was at Bosco, like at that point, when I was in school, Bergen Catholic and St. Joe's were the two best teams in North Jersey. Probably the two best teams in the state most years, and the rest of them were okay. And St. Peter's was always very good, but they're a little bit their own deal because of where they're located. So I just think it's a little bit personal choice. And I think it's like opportunity because there aren't a lot of really big schools. So the opportunity to go, literally 5 miles down the road and be playing at, the highest level of high school football. And then what happened was when guys started traveling, they started seeing, hey, opportunity, and they're seeing all these kids get scholarships. So they go there going to private school is not going to get you a scholarship. Me going to private school didn't make me 6'3", it just is what it is. That's how I was a Division III football player. I think it's just a little bit the culture of the way it goes. I think there's a lot of great football in North Jersey. There's a lot of really good coaches. The public school guys, there really are. There's a lot of guys that work as hard at it as anywhere. And a lot of those guys are able to keep their kids. But I think the attraction of the competition and,
sure.
Kind of the same thing, when I was coaching wrestling, like we started going out and just going to like the Beast of the East and started going, say, to the shore, wrestled a couple teams, wrestled High Point. And even though we were losing most of those matches, it was an opportunity to go out and compete against better competition. So all of a sudden we started sending 7, 8 guys to the state tournament. And then all of a sudden other guys are going, well, man, they're turning, 7, 8 guys. One year, I think we had 7 guys in the region final. So they were like, well, it just starts to attract, so I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's a personal choice, some of it, but.
Do you think there should be one champion? It should boil down. There should be a parochial champion and an overall football champion.
I think
now for football, right? There's group 1, 2, 3, 4, but
right.
Should there be a
throw it like Texas?
Yeah,
I think if they had a one, and now they have 5 groups. I think if they played it down to one champion, I think it would be a huge deal because I think it would put public school football at the center of the state for a minute. Because usually the championship, it's whatever non-public 4 is a huge deal, and there's 16, 17,000 people at the game, and where I think if it were I don't know, pick a school like Ridgewood versus whatever, Williamstown or something, like people in your area start to support, you know what I'm saying? Like if it's Montclair is representing North Jersey, that may be different than the sectional championship. Like when they made it a bowl game, it's like most of the teams don't even care. Like no, the town like comes to the sectional final and then they have the bowl game next week. Like, I got something to do. But if you were playing all the way to state championship, like I love high school football. So if I was a fan, I would go. I would have went when I was coaching at Bergen Catholic because I would have thought, hey, why wouldn't I want to see, Ridgewood play Piscataway to figure out who plays, Jackson or whoever, Phillipsburg or whatever it is.
Yeah. On top.
No doubt. I think that's what we need. I think that's what we need in really both sports, and basketball does it. And I just think it would be huge for it. I know football's a little different, right? Because it's every week, every weekend. But I just think it's something that the state needs. Right, Ant?
What makes wrestling so unique is you literally have, and from the individual standpoint, one state champion. So that is, when I was coaching, they started talking about separating out like the region, all this stuff. And I was like, this is just about having one champ. Like it's, I don't care where you go to school. So whether you go to, whether you go to South Plainfield or you go to Cape May High School, what difference does it make? If you're the best, then you get a chance to win it.
Yeah.
I was always frustrated when they were getting ready to split that. I thought they were going to split that with wrestling and mess with the state tournament.
That would have stunk. Yeah, I take pride in that. And on top of guys going to parochial versus public, I think a big part of it is my generation, at least the kids. I mean, like we're paying for, I think, more private lessons than ever for our sports. We're paying for more AAU teams in all our sports, club teams. And it's almost the cycle where it's like, what can my dollar get my kid? Like, can it get him a full ride to a college if he goes to a private school over a public school? Is it going to get him to the NFL? Whatever the case may be. But I think it trickles all the way up that ladder, coming from just going through that era where my parents really did a good job in giving me a lot of opportunities, and they provided a lot for me.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm probably unique in that. Like I have a son that's going into 8th grade. Like. And he'll go to private school because I'm a Catholic school guy. Like I actually believe in it, like I believe in, I think that having a Catholic education is important to him. I have no delusions that my son is going to end up, a Big Ten football player and then on his way to, the New England Patriots. I mean, I certainly hope that happens, but because he would love that to happen, but I couldn't care less if that happened.
So if I was the Ramapo coach or the Indian Hills coach, it would be my job to get that kid. And that's just me, man. How the heck can he let your son go to you know what I mean? And if he's that good, that's kind of how I go about it. But that's just
right. No, but I understand. I guess what I'm saying is like, to me, like there is a religious value of it that is not what, the reason everybody's going there. I'm not trying to say that, but there is that, but to me, the experience I had as a player and a coach, maybe if I went to Ramapo High School, I would feel it. Like I love their, a phenomenal football program, as good as anyone in the state. So it's not about football, it's really just about.
Sure. A couple quick hitters, Coach, because I know you got to get going, man. I appreciate all your time. Pork roll or Taylor ham?
Taylor ham all the way.
Oh, where does that even come from? I don't even know where that comes from. All right, good enough. LeBron or Jordan?
Sound very appetizing though. So like, why wouldn't you want to call it Taylor ham? It just would.
Pork roll, egg and cheese.
Yeah. Pork roll.
LeBron or Jordan?
Jordan by far.
Jordan. So you like that documentary?
Yeah, it was cool. I always say I think LeBron James is the greatest athlete in the history of the world. I don't know if you had to say, all right, you pick one guy to win, I would take Michael.
That'd be the guy.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next one. You coach Toll. Did you coach Toll and Sims? Did you coach those guys?
I coached Brian Toll and Matt Sims.
Matt Sims. Better player up there. Best player you've ever coached. Maybe that's easier.
Brian Toll by far.
And he went to BC?
Yes.
He was that good, huh?
He was a man amongst boys. Now, like coached against the best player I probably coached against in Jersey was probably Cushing.
Yep.
Will Hill was a phenomenal player out of St. Peter's. I coached against Luke Kuechly, but he's from Ohio, but he was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So this guy right here, you can't really see him. Nick Castellanos was the 2001 overall player of the year. I thought he was the most incredible high school football player I've ever seen because he just was relentless. And the guy next to him, Joe Saratelli, was the defensive player of the year. So we competed every day. I always said at Jackson, our practices were so much better than Friday nights because we just competed like crazy. But I get it, man. I thought Castellanos, because he was a great high school football player, the best I've ever – and I've seen a lot, Michael Pitts and not to be long, Eric McCoo, all those guys down here at the Shore. But he was only a 185-pound running back, linebacker who played. His body was just shot. And then he went to Monmouth and struggled with injuries. So there's there's a correlation. You know, that size and speed is pretty important.
No doubt. Yeah, Toll was a freak. I mean, he was like 6'1".
He was
like 230, and he was like the county 100-meter champ. And he won like the shot put too. I mean, he was just
incredible athlete. Were you surprised Cushion had such a great career in the NFL?
Not at all. He was an absolute savage. You know what the thing was? So I'll never forget this about Brian Cushing. His junior year, beat him in the state championship 14-13, but earlier in the year, we beat them 49-7, I think. And in the game, there was a play in the second half. We threw a screen. We had this kid, Marquise Liverpool, was a great player, went to Boston College, but got drafted in baseball. And Cushing literally hit Mike Teal as he threw the ball, like on a screen. He came through and turned around and ran down Liverpool like 35 yards down the field in a game that was like, I don't know, probably 35-0 at the time. And I remember watching the tape up in the room, and I'm like, this guy is an absolute lunatic. I mean, like when other guys were like, I'm not saying they had quit, but they weren't playing as, you know, the game just got away from them, and they weren't. This guy is playing like a raving lunatic, and we got to play them in the state championship game, and he was just everywhere. I mean, I think he caused like 4 fumbles or whatever. It was just, you know, he was a freaking animal.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, listen, man, we appreciate you. I know Anthony's fired up. You were on. He gets to pick your brain. This guy, Ashnault's done really, really well with these series here. This just started as us coming on, kind of let the fans know what we've been up to, what we've been doing, and it's turned into a pretty big deal, and everybody's into it, and a lot of people following it. So I know they certainly wanted you on and to hear what you guys are doing, and we appreciate you having us. But he's been picking everybody's brains, so I'm sure this was really, really good for him today, and it's been great for me. I took a bunch of notes, so you're the man, dude. We appreciate everything you've done for Rutgers. We appreciate you last year. We're super, super pumped that you stuck around. We're fired up about that, and we are looking forward to Rutgers football soon.
Well, thanks, guys. I really enjoyed being on. It's great talking with you guys, and hopefully enjoy Memorial Day weekend in Jersey. This is like it's not normal, right? Like
yeah, I'm hoping
it's different.
Hoping the sun stays out a little. It didn't. I looked at the weather yesterday. It said it didn't look too good.
At least it's warm.
Hopefully, it stays nice out today.
No doubt.
All right, Nunz.
Take care.
Thank you.
You're the man, buddy. Thanks.
All right.
That was awesome.
Yeah, we had a good question in the comments. It just ran out a little time. I'm wondering your opinion, though, Goody, about having to deal with, you know, we got a recruit coming on that's going to play football and they're going to wrestle. Your personal opinion, I want to know, too. What do you think his best sport, or where do you think his focus is going to go towards as well?
Yeah, and I saw that question. I didn't want to put him on the spot, right, because he hasn't signed. It's hard to comment on those guys. But my feeling is this. I think it's really, really hard to do both. But you get that special breed. Eventually, I wonder if there's going to be a choice you have to make, right? Do I want to win a national title from an individual standpoint, or do I want to play in the NFL because his body and his speed and how athletic he is, you know, that's an option, you know. So I guess you got to see how it can play out. But with us now, and where I think college wrestling is going to a second semester sport, that's my belief, that's my opinion, especially maybe even as close to as soon as this year. Maybe it can be done, man. Maybe it can be done. And listen, Rutgers hasn't actually played in a January 1 bowl. You know, they've been done second week in November the last couple of years. So if that was the trend, it's really easy. You know, you just come back second semester. But now with the trend moving towards maybe wrestling just being a second semester sport, heck, you have a whole month to get yourself ready to go and get in that Big Ten schedule. And the national tournament won't be until April. So maybe there's a better opportunity. I'm all for it. I can tell you from the recruiting process with the individual that they're asking about, they're all for it, the football staff. So we worked together on it, and it's what the kid wanted. So we were able to make it happen.
Yeah, and we've seen it at Rutgers with a football, baseball player, and it was done. I mean, I was able to be similar age, so I was able to be like his classmate and get to pick his brain about it a little, but definitely seemed like he was super busy and had a lot on his plate. But as long as you're that kind of person, fit for that mold, you could be that. It's like people that come and want to be an engineer and want to be a wrestler or want to be an athlete or want to be a doctor. It takes a lot more than you think. And being an athlete, that schedule is busy by itself. Now add another full-time something that's full-time. That's 2 sports, whatever it may be, a tough major in the sport. It goes a long way. If you could get that done and after college and look back, it's great. And you're set up probably for life. But a lot of kids throw themselves into that fire and then it's one semester in and they're broken in both.
Yeah. You got to be super disciplined, super committed. All those superlatives or characteristics, you need them all, and you better have a thick skin. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs during it. So, we'll see. I think, because of this one recruit, we're getting others that kind of want to do it, but they maybe don't fit the football mold, So, it is what it is. We'll see how it works out. I'll tell you what I took a lot out of that it was awesome that you asked the question about the Ivies and the, comparing recruiting Ivies and Big Ten. And it's what I've always been saying, man, whatever you want to do in this world of yours, you have the opportunity to do it right through Rutgers. Don't use education. And maybe that's easier for me to say over on this side of it, but whatever you want to get done here, whatever you want to do in the work world, your future, your athletic career, the Big Ten, you can get it done right here. And I'm glad Nun's touched on that.
Yeah. And obviously we're 2 people that believe in that, but it's nice to have solid confirmation on other guys. And, it makes my mindset like a stronger about it. I'm like, yeah, like I'm right. Like you don't need to go to those places.
Yeah.
And we didn't even touch on some of his family, man. He's got brothers all coaching Division I. He talked a little bit about it, but that's got to be so cool. Like,
yeah. And then his brother's a head coach at Bergen, I believe. So how do you not there's got to be a little bit of talk over Thanksgiving. Hey, you better get me that kid. I want that kid. And they've done a good job of doing it.
Yeah.
So maybe he is having those conversations.
And it's just nice to probably call each other after that Saturday night or Sunday morning, just talking about how things went. And, you could definitely be relaying different tactics or whatever it may be off each other's heads. And
sure,
I'm sure they're getting great feedback and probably makes them great. It probably is something that makes all of them a little bit of their greatness.
There's no doubt about it. Listen, Nuns is going to be a head coach somewhere. The guy, I could just tell by talking to him, and he's so professional. He almost sounds like Greg. It's crazy. It's but you could tell he's been around some really, really good people, and he's learned from every single one of them. But he just gets it. He knows what to say, what he can't say. I don't know. That's the feeling I get. He's going to be a head coach somewhere. Absolutely.
I love coaches like him, like that. Not that he was praising Ciano, but that's his head coach, and he supports him.
Yeah,
and
there's loyalty.
It's loyal, man. And I just love hearing that, the tone in his voice about it and how he talks about him. I think that's part of the culture they're creating right now. And not that one man's better than the next, but that's the head coach. And it's like follow in line from what your head coach is doing, learning from him, and whatever he wants with the way the program's run, he's going to do it. And I love to hear that.
Cool, man. Well, before we close up, man, what do you got planned for the weekend? I know we talked earlier. You're getting ready to head out to Oklahoma to train. What's your plan for the weekend, Memorial Day weekend?
We got the pool opened up, so hopefully the chemicals are kicking in today. It clears up. Couldn't see the bottom in the deep end yesterday. Little murky, but got it vacuumed and the chemicals are in. So hopefully we get that open and get a nice day. We could jump in there. But I don't know. The weather looked a little shaky. I'm meeting up with some family Sunday. That'll be nice to see everybody. But other than that, just relaxing, maybe riding the bikes up to the beach a couple times, just hanging out, cooking up some food on the Traeger.
Billy's baby doing well?
Yeah, doing really well. I need to go over there, see the baby through the screen with my mask on, or sit outside with him. He's doing real well, real healthy. Had his first doctor visit. Michael William Ashnault, beautiful little baby boy, super cute.
Awesome.
They put him in a singlet yesterday. Took a couple pictures, so they came out really well. They were cool to see.
Good, man. Good.
What's going on with you guys this weekend?
Nothing. I'm gonna golf. I'm probably gonna golf every single day.
Rain or shine?
What's that?
Rain or shine?
Rain or shine, yeah, it's supposed to drizzle. We have a big match, our powernBergen's game every Saturday and Sunday morning. I'm actually going to go down and play with my buddies down Sunday to Galloway, which is a really cool track. And then Monday I'll be back up at the Barons because it's usually closed on Mondays, but now it'll be opened up just because of the Memorial Day weekend, and closed on Tuesday. So I'll golf and we'll do some cooking out and hanging with the family, just doing our thing. You know, Zach had his boys over last night playing spike ball, so we got that up and running.
You jumped in the mix?
I didn't jump in, man. They had 4 guys, and I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of donors and Pat Hobbs last night, which was awesome. Our administration got to see the whole gang, talk shop a little bit, let them know a little bit of our Big Ten conference call that I was on yesterday with scheduling. So again, all that stuff about second semester, what does that look like? We talked a lot about that yesterday. Maybe it's just a Big Ten schedule. Maybe it's a Big Ten schedule with Big Ten tournaments. And then there was discussion, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to cut back on costs of travel, or are we trying to protect ourselves from COVID-19? So a lot to work out with our schedule. We have no idea what direction they're going to go. I truly believe it's going to be a second semester sport this year, make the national tournament in April, but there's more that goes into it than what arena, right? We're supposed to go to St. Louis March 20th through 22nd. Can we get St. Louis April 21st through the 23rd? So that's got to be worked out. So there's so many questions and answers, and who knows? So I'm swimming on that. I know I'm long-winded on that. I'm all over the place, but that's kind of what I was doing last night, giving those details to administration and donors. And there's really nothing really to report. It stinks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to report.
Yeah, and it's like the ball's not really in your hands. You know, you just kind of gotta abide to what they're telling you. You know, it was cool to hear though how he was kind of not that it led him to go to Rutgers, but he's inspired to see you go from high school to college coaching, and it's cool. Like guys like him went from high school to college, and that was kind of in his plans. And it's cool that not that you were the first one ever to do it, but it's cool that people in New Jersey see you and then see him do it, and it's kind of like gives them the hope or gives them a little bit inspiration, opportunity that they could get that same pattern or that same path and follow it. And it was
man. I'm sure in football it's always a thought, right? I know they got Augie from St. Joe's Montvale, the head football coach up there, went to Rutgers. So I think in football it's a lot more maybe desirable. It's something they're looking to do because they've had, especially in those parochials, right? They have nationally ranked programs, nationally ranked teams that are so good and so talented. They're dealing with those guys all the time. So maybe it's a little bit – I never thought about that when I was sitting in the corner in Atlantic City like I'm taking over the Rutgers. I never even thought that way. I was like, we're going to get this 8th grade group coming in and we're going to be Blair next year. That was my thought process. Like I really thought – and I wanted to make Jackson wrestling and even Jackson football the biggest thing ever. And that's all I ever thought to do. So I agree with them, and I think about what just be where your feet are at. You talk about that all the time. Be where your feet are at in the moment, and that's where I was that moment. And that's all that ever mattered to me was Jackson. And then, again, that 5-point plan changed everything. But I don't know. It's I never thought about going to Rutgers. I'm obviously super glad I did, but I bet in football it's a little bit more desirable, man. He's got monster programs. He knows he could probably coach at that level. And, X's and O's probably the best part of what he does. I didn't ask him that. I wanted to. Is that the best part of the job, just sitting in that room, X's and O? And when I was in high school, man, our guys would throw in a dip, and we would just sit and talk football all day and all night and put on the film, the cowboy clicker, and click back and forth, back and forth. This is what these guys are doing, tendencies. And I'm sure watching film is a big deal. But, yeah, those guys, you kind of know they belong at that level.
Yeah. It's funny because all college coaches, all sports deal with so much more outside of the X's and the O's. So it's like when we have these talks, it's like you don't even get into the actual job. Sometimes you want to hear about the recruiting, you want to hear about the upbringing.
I know.
So yeah, on top of all that, as a college coach, they got to go do their actual job, which is to go coach football or go coach wrestling. It gives you that respect when they're so good at the other things that come along with it, when they're really good at recruiting, working with their donors or working with the university, and they're a great coach on the field. It's like that's the new era of a good coach. That maybe it wasn't like that 20, 30 years ago, but that's the modern era now. You got to be even with it outside of all that. You got to be with it. Like can't be messing up. Can't be doing things outside of all of that.
Well, look, your uncle and your best friends are all football coaches, right? Your uncle at South Plainfield and your best friends at Keene at the college level. I'm sure he could tell you what goes into it. It ain't just it's not a 9-to-5 job. I can tell you that.
Yeah. They all say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the families feel it too.
Can you see this picture?
Yeah.
There's your nephew.
There he is.
Your mom just sent that to me. That's awesome. Whoever made that, they're good. That's pretty
I
cool.
think some of the parents on the CBA team made it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
Yeah, they gave it to him at the board's dinner this year.
Yeah. Well, listen, we didn't think Nuns would go an hour, but I kind of knew. You start getting talking, and it's so interesting, and all the stories he could share. And I'm just really into that guy. I knew it was going to go for a while. To think we were only going to have him on for 30 minutes was probably a stretch. So let's figure out what we want to do next week. I mean, I get texts all the time. You should have this person. You should have that person. Maybe it's just bringing people on again. I don't know, but I'm sure we'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we always figure it out. So maybe get someone wrestling related. It is the wrestling room. We've had variety of guests giving us great insight on what they do, great knowledge, but maybe pick someone's mind within the wrestling world, or get some of our athletes and our coaching staff on here as well, maybe even.
Yeah, maybe we'll go that route. And I'll close it out with this. When I was on that call with Pat Hobbs, he mentioned what a great job you do on this show. And because of it, he's going to want you to speak to all the athletes that come back. You know, that orientation that you had to go through, where you kind of the academic people put it on. Well, you're going to have a 30-minute slot where you got to talk to all the athletes. So because of what you're doing on this show, so good for you.
They're gonna have to talk to my representation.
Malka Sports. You're going to have to talk.
I'm going to have to send it up the chain.
All right, my man. Listen, enjoy your weekend. Do a great job. I'll talk to you before, but let's talk before you head out to Oklahoma, and I'm excited to see what that's all about out there.
Sounds good, man. Enjoy
right,
the Memorial Day weekend.
Yep, you got it. See ya.